Alright, what's the word, y'all? Welcome back. Today, we're putting two things together that should never, ever, ever be put together. One Piece and power scaling. Trying to power scale One Piece is like trying to put together a puzzle when half the pieces are missing. Just when you think you got it figured out, Oda just throws another curveball, leaving fans questioning everything. From Shanks to Shamrock to Emu to Dragon to Loki to Kong, some of the most important characters haven't even fought on screen. And the few that do fight only add more confusion. Sabo fighting admirals, Ace going toe to toe with Yamato, Crocodile clashing with Mihawk despite being defeated by pre-Haki Luffy. Even the abilities we do understand, like Haki, are applied so inconsistently that it only complicates things further. So today, we're breaking down why you can't properly power scale One Piece and why that's exactly how it should be. Okay, so obvious spoilers ahead. I'm probably going to touch on things from chapter 1 to chapter 1100. So if you're not caught up, you've been warned. Proceed with caution. But before we get into that, guys, can you guys please like, subscribe, share the video, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. We're growing the community here, man. I'm trying to reach the goal of 2,000 before May. But with all that out the way, let's get into the video. Alright, now let's start with the tiers. We got Pirate King tier, Yonko tier, Admiral tier, Warlord tier. It's how fans have tried to break down power levels in One Piece for years. But the series actively works against this idea. It's not meant to be a straightforward power structure. There's nuance to these type of things. And that's exactly why it gets confusing. Because at this point in One Piece, statements happen to be over feats. We'll have statements for characters but no feats, but since they're said to be able to do this, this, and that, we have to treat them like they're able to do this, this, and that. For example, Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman. Shanks has a sword. 1 + 1 = 2, Mihawk should be stronger, right? But I've seen Shanks do some crazy things, and I've seen Mihawk do nothing. So it's like, what's what? So speaking of Mihawk, he's the first top tier that we're going to talk about. The world's strongest swordsman, Zoro's dream, who's supposed to be superior to every other swordsman, yet he's had casual clashes with Vista and even sends a slashing attack towards Whitebeard, the Whitebeard, world's strongest man, Whitebeard, that gets blocked by Jozu. But the same Mihawk used to fight Shanks on equal footing, and like I said, we all know what Shanks is capable of. So it's just inconsistent on how they're showing Mihawk to be. In other words, what we're seeing and what we're told are two different things, so it's more likely that we need to go with what we're being told. Okay, next is Dragon, you know, the world's most wanted man. But like, what the hell does that even mean? His strength, his influence, his possible devil fruit power? It's never explained. We just know he's dangerous and people are terrified of the idea of him. Okay, little side note, given the fact that Garp and Luffy are insanely cracked, it's fair to assume that Dragon is also going to be cracked, but brother, we are like 1100 chapters in, and he hasn't done a thing. Okay, and before one of you guys runs to the comment like, well actually, I know he's the world's most wanted man because of his bounty, and he has the bounty because he leads the Revolutionary Army, which is actively going against the world government. But like, again, he hasn't done anything! We know absolutely nothing about Emu. They're positioned as potentially the most powerful character in the world, but we don't even know if they fight or rely on other means of control. We don't know anything except for what happened at Leloucia. Alright, now we're talking about Big Sabo. We saw him fighting Fujitora and Green Bull and then escaping from the Gorosei. If that was anybody else, we'd automatically assume that they were Yonko tier, but the context is completely unclear. Like, we know Sabo's cracked, and since he did that, does that just put him in upper echelon tier? Does that put him in a different level? Or are there reasons as to why he was able to do the things that he does? We know he's a strong character, but how strong is he? And finally, we're gonna talk about Ace, bro. We're gonna discuss Fire Fist Ace. Ace was already strong. Strong enough to the point when he was fighting Blackbeard, Blackbeard essentially told his crew to stay out of it, before Luffy even got super famous. But learning he fought Yamato and Wano changes everything, because Yamato's someone who could go toe to toe with Kaido for a period of time. It really makes us rethink how powerful Ace truly was. Especially since we find out that he had all 3 types of Haki, but we really don't see him do it because Haki wasn't really fleshed out till the second half of the series. So opinions and the way that a lot of these characters are perceived in the world changes based off of how we view them. And all that's without us even touching on the legends like Garp and Goku, Kong, who are battling against Roger and Whitebeard in their prime, or Garling, Loki, and the rest of the top tier characters that we've barely seen. Fans want to fit these characters into clear-cut tiers, but the series itself refuses to give us the clarity that we crave. Another major issue with power scaling One Piece is the lack of direct confrontation. Let's go through 3 key examples. Number 1, Mihawk versus Vista. Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman, ends up clashing with Vista at Marineford, but it's brief, inconclusive, and leaves us wondering, was Mihawk just holding back? Was Vista genuinely on his level, or was Mihawk just testing him? And if Mihawk is supposed to be stronger than Shanks, how does this make sense? Example number 2, Ace and Yamato. Ace fighting Yamato completely reframes how strong he really was. Yamato went toe-to-toe with Kaido, one of the strongest beings in the world. So if Ace was capable of matching Yamato in combat, then what does that say about his true strength? Was Ace Yonko tier even before Luffy started his adventure? Or is this just another example of things not making sense? Lastly, Sabo's escape. Sabo fighting 2 admirals and escaping from the Gorosei will make most people think he's Yonko tier, as I previously said. But that's the problem. One Piece constantly gives us moments that are ambiguous. Did Sabo overpower the admirals, outsmart them, or simply escape due to sheer luck? These moments leave us with more questions than answers, making power scaling feel almost impossible. It just comes down to the fact that Oda doesn't write One Piece like a traditional battle shonen. It's not just about power levels and ranking systems. Luffy beat Enel not because he was stronger, but because of a natural advantage. Crocodile clashed with Mihawk during the Paramount War, even though he lost to a pre-Haki Luffy a couple months earlier. Law and Kid beat Big Mom with a combination of teamwork and creativity, not just raw strength. These fights are meant to be unpredictable, rooted in creativity, matchup advantages, and story context. It's not just person A beat person B, so person A is automatically stronger. The real problem with power scaling in One Piece is that the series actively resists being scaled. The story isn't structured to reward fans for trying to break down each character's power level or tier like it's a video game. And yet, fans keep trying. Why? Because humans crave order. We want a system that makes sense, where A beats B and B beats C, but One Piece thrives on contradictions and unexpected outcomes. Think about it. Let's go over a few of the examples we've already talked about. Crocodile gets beat by a pre-Haki Luffy and ends up in Impel Down, but during Marineford, a couple months later, if that, he's clashing with Mihawk. Dracule, Mihawk. Are we supposed to believe that Crocodile somehow reached Mihawk's level in that short amount of time, or is the truth more complicated than that? Secondly, Law and Kid. They beat Big Mom, a Yonko. Does that make them Yonko tier? Maybe, but not necessarily. They fought together, and their abilities created a unique synergy that Big Mom couldn't counter. It was situational. Lastly, Eneru on Skypiea, somebody who could obliterate most people with a single attack at that point in time. But Luffy beats him, not through strength, but because of a natural advantage. Rubber counters electricity. Yet if Eneru came down to the Blue Sea, his power would be seen as devastating against almost anybody. These moments highlight the flaws in trying to power scale One Piece. It's not about who's stronger, it's about how abilities interact, who's fighting who, and the circumstances around each battle. So all of this leads to another question. Why does Oda keep things so vague? Why are there so many of the strongest characters shrouded in mystery? Well, clearly it's intentional. The mystery creates hype. It allows fans to speculate and build up their own interpretations. When you hear Shanks and Mihawk used to clash evenly, you immediately start to imagine what those battles looked like. Keeping power levels vague also prevents the series from becoming stale. If everything was laid out clearly, fans would know exactly how strong every character is and predict the outcome of every fight. By keeping things mysterious, Oda maintains tension and excitement. And then there's the fact that Oda wants a story to be more than just fighting. The series thrives on creativity, unpredictability, and world building. If we had definitive power tiers, it would undermine the very spirit of One Piece. And most importantly, Oda is a dick and he likes fucking with us. Do y'all read the SBSs? The way that he answers some of these questions, Oda is having a blast when our heads are just on a swivel like, what's this, what's this, what's this, what's that? This dude loves it. So yeah, Oda just likes messing with us. The funny thing is, so many of our beliefs about One Piece's power levels are rooted in hearsay and implication. And Oda plays with that. He wants us to speculate and debate because it keeps the world feeling larger than life. Oda's statements are always ambiguous. Like, we know Rayleigh and Gaban are insanely strong, but to say that they're semi-equals with Roger is crazy, because now, is Roger actually stronger than them? Are they stronger than Roger? Now we don't know. Or does that actually just mean that their reputations are equal, that they're all looked at as famous, well, infamous pirates? Even when we're talking about Whitebeard and Kaido, Whitebeard was the world's strongest man, but Kaido was the world's strongest creature. You know, one-on-one bet on Kaido. So does that mean Kaido was the strongest in the world? And since Luffy beat him, is Luffy now the strongest in the world? Obviously, we know Luffy is not the strongest character in One Piece right now, but do you see what I mean? If One Piece was an A beats B, B beats C, C beats D type of series, then that's how it would go. Like, the more you think about it, the trickier it gets. Magellan soloed Blackbeard's crew. Does this mean Magellan's warlord level because Blackbeard was a warlord? Green Bull was scared of fighting the red-haired pirates on Wano. Does this automatically mean Yonko beat admirals? There's just so much to take when you're thinking about this type of story, because it doesn't hold your hand. It just throws you out in the deep end and says, figure it out. And that's essentially why you can't have a top 10 list in One Piece. I'll see so many people make top 10 lists. Oh, these are the top 5 strongest characters. But you can't. You cannot do it. We don't know how it looked when these characters fought. We just know they're strong. Like Roger and his crew, Rox and his crew, Garp, Sengoku, Bogard. We know nothing about Bogard, but guess what? He was at God Valley and survived, so he has to be like that. Oh, also Garling. Garling was there. So we don't know anything about these characters, but the fact that they're here and they survived these big world-changing events and they had something to do with it means that they have to have some level of power comparable to the other big players who we have seen do things. But at the end of the day, power scaling One Piece is, it's like drawing a map of an ever-changing world. The tiers, the feats, the characters themselves, nothing stays consistent, and that's by design. And maybe that's the beauty of it. The unknowns keep us invested. They keep us theorizing, debating, and speculating about characters we've never even seen fight. So while power scaling One Piece might be impossible, it's also what makes the series feel so alive. Feel free to disagree, tell me I don't know anything, or say Shanks solos the entire verse. I really don't care. But let's talk about it in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. If you think I'm wrong, oh well. If you agree with what I'm saying, then you're a goat that knows ball. But nah, all jokes aside, man, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.